Hey everyone, welcome back to Going Digital, the podcast where we talk about digitalization in youth work. This series is part of the Digital Transformation of Inclusive Youth project, co-financed by the Erasmus Plus program. I'm your host, Emina, and joining us today will be Mirsad, someone who was part of the IT team to work on publishing the mobile app. Hello, Mirsad, and welcome to Going Digital podcast.
Hey, Emina, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So before we dive into all the details, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into this project?
Sure. I'm an educator and a software developer, and I have been working on projects with social impacts for a number of years. Specifically, I've been working with UPA projects from Sweden. And for this particular project, I was in the last phase for the mobile app. I was in the last phase of it, where I had to basically publish and test a mobile app for the Google Play Store. But the coding for the app was done by a great team, a Swedish team, actually a Swedish company, Beetroot, and they were very professional, and I was excited to work with them, and I would love to work with them in the future.
That sounds so interesting. So let's get into it. Can you tell us what exactly is the VIC app?
The VIC app is essentially a hub for youth workers, educators, and NGOs, where you will have all the materials in one place. And not just materials for learning, but also resources, educational material, and opportunities to connect, networking opportunities to connect with other NGOs and youth workers. Basically, it's also it's more based on a non-formal education for the youth workers, but also youths who are in the formal education system could use these resources for their own purposes.
That sounds really useful. Can you tell us what inspired the creation of the app?
Basically, I wasn't part of the team that initially wrote the proposal, but I think the main goal was to have a central hub for all the resources, for all the other NGOs, especially the small-time NGOs who maybe don't have the budgets or who are not big enough to get those resources by themselves.
Can you tell us what were some of the challenges that you may have faced during the development?
Actually, there were a lot of challenges. First, if you are in the NGO sector, you know when you are running a proposal, it takes time for it to be given a green light to start working on it. For this project, it was written somewhere in the mid-2022, and because of the budget constraints, when you write a proposal, you have to figure out how much you're going to pay somebody for all the things that you're going to do. And we started working on the project in beginning of January 2023. Now, we're at the end of 2024 right now, and we're about to publish the app. Now, there was a 2-year period between the proposal and when we have to publish the app. Within that time, a lot has changed. The pricing of creating an app or writing the code for an app, especially if you have someone that outsource it and find let's say, an IT firm to work for it, and plus inflation. So when you're creating the budget and when you come to the implementation phase, there's always that constraint: how much you planned and how much can you give money, or maybe work with the budget to pay people in order to create that app. Another problem was the initial plan was to create the app for Apple and Google Play. And we figured out that it's not going to be able to do that because there are two different codes. I mean, there are two different programming codes to write it. Especially, there's a big difference between Apple and there's a big difference between Google. So we decided we're going to only work on the Android app. I'm sorry. And now, when we created it, when our team, IT team, created the app, just to publish that app was a hassle. In order to publish the app, you have to create a Google account, a dev account. In order to create a Google dev account, you have a 2-step verification. You as a developer, and plus your device where you're gonna basically test it. That process was a hassle in itself because you have to send your ID, you have to basically prove to Google that you are who you say you are. After that phase, when you load up the Google, your app to the Google Dev account, you have a 14-day closed testing period where around 20 people test that app every day and they send the feedback. Apart from that, there's another 10-day period, at least 10 days, or actually the most 10 days, it can be a little shorter. It was the Google review phase where basically they review the app and see if everything is up in order. Problem with that is that the changes that can be changes made to the app if the Google review says you have to make them. So you have to go back to the code, change it, and then you have to put it to review again. So that was a pretty big hassle, especially for a small NGO who maybe don't have that much of a background in the IT sector. Luckily, we only did it for the Google app. If we did it for the App Store, for iOS, it would have been even more worse for us because the testing, creating the account at the App Store and everything else was much more complicated than for the Android. So I think it was the wise choice just to do for the Android device.
Wow, that really sounds challenging. Now, can you walk us through some of the key features of the VIC app?
Absolutely. The app has several main sections. There's a resource library filled with guides, educational programs, and incentives for youth work. Also, there's a forum where you can connect with other NGOs and other youth workers who maybe you could not have the possibility to connect with them. And the best feature for me personally was the online courses, basically where you can just go and listen to videos, look at educational programs that the NGOs created, and you can educate not just yourself, but also your youth workers and the NGO. Also, what's the key feature is that our app is connected to the website of the VIC. So it's not just a VIC app, we also have a VIC website where if you register and log in or whatever you do on the website, automatically we sync it up with the app. So you don't have to, basically you're not gonna have, I did something on the website, but I can do it on the app, on the VIC app, so you can do both.
So how do you think this app benefits the NGO specifically?
The small NGOs are going to be the biggest winners here, I guess, because the small NGOs have limited resources, they have limited budgetary constraints, they have limited, let's say, ways of getting new resources. This is going to give them a hub, a centralized hub, everything in one place, and they can get it for free, where they don't have to pay nobody, we don't have to subscribe to nobody, it's just basically come here it is, take it and work with it. And especially with the youth workers and the small NGOs whose budgets are limited, and basically we're trying to do a level playing field. You have the big NGOs, you have the small NGOs, now I'm going to put it all in one level where it says everybody can have this and we can work with them.
Yeah,
and they can work with us.
That's awesome. So before we wrap it up, what do you think the app will achieve in the long run?
In the long run, basically, I want it to be a cornerstone for resources for the youth work. Also, not just Europe, but globally, because we have NGOs in Africa, we have NGOs in South America, we have NGOs in Asia. I want to connect with them, and we can connect with our NGOs, and they can use our resources, and maybe they can give us their resources, and we can work with them. But the real difference is basically just to incentivize young people and empower the NGOs that work with those young people, where we say, okay, you may be small NGO, but here we're going to try to help you out to empower and help these young people achieve whatever they want to achieve.
Noble goal indeed. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Mirsad. It's been a pleasure hearing about the app and the incredible work that you and your team are doing.
Thanks for having me, Mina. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning into this episode of Going Digital. Don't forget to download the VIC app and explore the amazing resources it has to offer. If you enjoyed this particular episode, please don't forget to leave a review. Until next time, keep embracing the digital transformation.